I'm so excited to invite back to the show Nina Manolson. Nina helps women end the food and body war so they can finally experience body peace. The process is about relearning how to be in an authentic, respectful, and caring relationship with your food and body. Oh my goodness, if we could only get there. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's such a delight to be with you again. And there was something you just said, I just have to riff off of immediately. You said, if only we could get there. The thing is that body peace and having that kind of yummy, easeful, supportive, nourishing relationship with our body is not actually a destination, right? The body love movement would have you feel like it's a destination. And now I love my body. Great. And it's like a gymnast who made a landing and now you got to stick it. It's just not that. It's like any other relationship, it's a practice. It's a daily practice. It's a relationship. You don't get married and then go, great, done and sorted. I'm good because now we are committed and we have arrived to marriage. No, marriage is a practice. Every day we practice communicating. Every day we practice, hopefully, if it's a good relationship, we
Yes.
practice listening. We practice respect. We practice care. And all of that applies to our relationship with our body.
Yes, thank you. You're so comfy. Like the instant you start talking, I can like feel all of our listeners' shoulders going down and like leaning in. There's just this, you have so much
Hmm.
wisdom, and this is why I'm so excited
Hmm.
to have you back. And I'm agreeing with you 100% that everything that you and I are about to talk about is a practice. Everything that falls
Yeah.
under that health category even is a practice. We
Yeah.
never just hit a magic moment where it's like, we're good. You're
Right. And
done. You
right.
finished.
But you do see, you know what? You see people saying, I have hit the magic moment. And you know where you see it?
Hmm.
Before and after pictures,
Oh,
right? Before and after pictures, people go, look, I did it. I made it. I'm at my magic moment. Ta-da! I have arrived at the after. What we don't see is after the after, because most likely they are in the middle of weight cycling, right? And they're showing you this moment when they're in a smaller body and going, this is it. I have arrived. I am awesome. But that's just not how it rolls. We don't hit it and stay there. That's just not real.
no, and the problem with it is it sets other individuals' expectations that is what they should be experiencing. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that falls any bit short of that is failure, when you and I
Totally.
know that's not true.
Right.
Yes.
It's not. And the thing is, too, people get to this place and they go, oh, this is how I love feeling that way. I'm not taking that away. Great. It feels good when our body is feeling strong, when our body is a size that feels comfortable for us, when we feel relaxed with food. But then life happens. Illness happens, COVID happens, injury happens. You trip and suddenly you can't do that 5 mile walk a day. Like stuff, life happens. So when we get all attached and get very tight and grippy, and restrictive around the like, I have, you see, now this is who I am and this is who I must maintain to feel good about myself, then it just is not, it doesn't fit in an actual real life. We all know if you're over 15, you know life is complicated.
Yes. And you know what's interesting? You and I both have a nice variety of clients to pull from with this, but like within my membership, I don't think at the moment I could pull out one individual who's not going through something pretty big, right? So you're
Oh
like,
my
okay, if
gosh,
we have this
yes.
span of women who all, and to you said it, like some of them is death, some of it is caretaking, some of it is from storms that have wrecked property, that the hurricane
Mm-hmm.
that just came through. Like I could literally go down my list, and the praise for these women would come, how do you maintain any bit
Yes.
of regularity with your health routines, your paying attention to self versus letting it all go? Because that would be the normal moment for people to go, well, screw it, excuse me. But like, this is it. This
Yes.
is like where the fall off starts. So it's really
Oh
about
my
how do we get
gosh.
through?
Lindsay,
through.
it's so important what you're saying. Life is happening, and I completely concur. There's not one of my clients that I can look at and not look at their life story right now and how challenging it is, because life is very challenging. But what you said, which was so important, is so how do we stay in with ourselves? How do we stay connected to our self care, to what nourishes us, to what helps regulate our nervous system, to the food that actually makes us feel like we feel good in our own body? And that's where we want to really put our attention. It gets all bright, shiny object like lose 10 pounds in 10 days kind of thing, or get a ripped whatever, abs, blah, blah, blah. But what you're saying, that's where the real sustainable juice of our relationship with our body is how do we stay in with ourselves? In when we're being disappointed because we tripped and now our ankle hurts. When we get disappointed because suddenly, oh, I don't know, you were eating dairy your whole life and now you eat cheese and your tummy feels terrible. It's disappointing. Bummer. I liked cheese and now I can't have it because my body says no. Right? There's all these little and big disappointments with our body. And so, how do we navigate all of that? Our disappointments with our body, our disappointments in our life, our challenges of taking care of children or parents, and stay connected to our own body in a way where we're treating ourselves with kindness, with care, with compassion, with respect.
So this is a great segue into this question, actually, because I think everybody can tell how passionate you are about, you care about the relationship with the body. So the question for you is, do you have any belief after witnessing all of your time with clients, all of your time as a body peace coach, do you have any belief that one can actually hate themselves into loving themselves or hate themselves into a healthier version of themselves? I'm
I
saying this
love
tongue
this
in cheek.
question. I know, but I love this question. So I've been working with women and their relationship with their body for 30 years.
Mhm.
And there has not been one time in all of those years, thousands of women, that it has been successful for somebody to hate themselves into loving themselves. It doesn't work. Now, having said that, there may always be a little part of you that's like, no, I don't like that body. For 10 years, I looked in the mirror and tried Louise Hay style. I love my body. I love my body. I really tried, like seriously, affirmation practice daily. And there was always a little part that came up and looked at me in the mirror and goes, that's not true. I don't love my body. I hate you. And I was like, wow, there's no amount of me either pressuring myself to love my body or the part of me that hated my body to win, right? There's the body war. And so, what we want to do is actually create a different relationship that makes space for the part that goes, yeah, okay, so, okay, I can have a little more compassion. I can be a little more caring. I can be a little more respectful. But really, all those wrinkles and the belly and the whole flap thing and the arms and the butt, I'm not feeling it. Okay, that part exists, but it's not all of me. It's a part of me, it's the critical part of me. And she has historically, and this is true for many women, has historically been the part of us that's tried to push, right, Lindsay, like what you're talking about. Like, I'm going to hate myself into action, I'm going to hate myself into motivation. And she's been trying her, if you turn to that part that's so hateful and so critical and go, what? What's your job exactly? What are you doing? What are you about? Likely she'll say, no, but I'm here to help. Really. I'm trying to get you to do better. I'm here. I'm going to criticize you before someone else did because, your dad criticized or your gym teacher criticized or your friends criticized. So I'll criticize first. Then you'll feel bad and it won't hurt so bad when they do it. Right? That part of us that got really critical got developed for coping purposes. And I want to say that again because it's so important that even the unwanted parts of us that are so mean to us or are have unwanted eating like binging or nighttime snacking or all the things that we're like, oh, I wish I could stop that. Those parts are not bad. They were trying to help you cope. And so we want to bring them into the conversation of the relationship that we have with ourselves. Doesn't mean listening to them, doesn't mean going, you're right, but it means like, oh, yeah, there's my critical part. And what other voices can I bring into the conversation with myself?
Yeah, it's not just muting one. You can still hear it, but bring in more to support.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for, I had chills the whole time you were talking. I just feel like that was such a well said. It helps our listeners come into that space of, oh, that has purpose. Like, why am I so mean to myself? I think that some people fully understand why, and maybe they've had good therapy even, and maybe all the
Mm-hmm.
deep dives have happened. But I think there's a huge chunk of the population too who hasn't done the deep dive, and that might be their first little nugget where they go, oh, there's more to this story. And I need to unravel that piece to get some further success. And just for any listener who's going, hate yourself into loving yourself, okay, that can look like, oh, I'm so grossed out by my legs. I'm so grossed out by my, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
The word hate doesn't mean that we are completely, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like somebody might think that that's a really strong version of, I don't hate myself, but like maybe I'm not nice to myself. Like, there's probably this gray area in between,
Mm-hmm.
but it all matters. And it all comes back to exactly what you already said, Nina. I don't know.
Kristen Neff, who's a leading researcher in self compassion. In the way that Brene Brown has done tons of research around shame, Kristen Neff and Christopher Grammer have done huge amounts of research around self compassion. And one of the things they found is that when we are in this more caring, kind relationship with ourselves, what is the outcome? We treat ourselves better. And it's not a rah, 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 like go, 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 and then treat. Nope. It's compassion, it's kindness, it's care. So it's worth noting those places where we're kind of offhand mean to ourselves because if what we're trying to do is take better care of ourselves and feel like we're really on our side and eat in a way that supports our body and move in a way that makes us feel energized and agile and able to age with energy, great. If we want to do that, then we want to really work on this key part of our relationship with ourselves, which is how do we talk to ourselves? Because if you're like, oh, I don't treat, I'm pretty nice with my body. I don't treat her too bad. But every time you go by a window and you catch your reflection, you're like, ugh, it's worth looking at that. It really is because it erodes the relationship and it doesn't support what you're truly wanting.
Death by a thousand cuts, right? That it's not maybe one big thing that you're saying. It's
Death
all the
by a
little things.
thousand cuts. Exactly. I haven't heard that saying in a while. That is so true. That's so true. It's that like subtle erosion of like you walk into a party and you compare everybody in the room and then you feel a little less than. And so then you're feeling a little less than. And so then you're like, oh, you know, I might as well just override my fullness signals from my body. And so now I've eaten a little more than I wish I had. So I felt a little less than because I compared myself. Now I feel a little less than because I ate a little more than is comfortable for my body. And then now I'm being even more critical, right? It's all these like little ways that we're really unkind.
Yeah, it's the ripples. And you just gave such a good example of a ripple of a negative feeling that can come. But on the reverse side of that, and I'm sure this is some of the work you do, that if you kind of drop that rock of something positive into
Mm-hmm.
a pond, it ripples off in positive directions as well.
Yeah.
I would love to hear an example of what a
Mm-hmm.
client conversation would look like. It like let's pretend the example you just gave was what your client was able to verbalize to you.
Yeah.
how would you keep going with that session?
Yeah. So I'd say, first of all, let's look, right? Let's start with awareness. Let's look at all the places that you said things to yourself, and then how did you feel after, right? Let's dive into that. Then let's replay and what could have happened when you walked in. What needed to have happen before you even walked into that place? Because there will be other parties, there will be other dinner reservations with friends. So let's do the work now so that the next time we know what's going to happen and how you're going to play it. And one of my favorite exercises with people is, I call it bingo. And I do this a lot because right now it's before the holidays. And I do this a lot with people right before the holidays because they're walking into parties and they're dealing with family events. So we literally make a little bingo chart and I go, okay, you walk in, what are people going to say? And they always say, well, someone's going to comment about my weight. Okay, let's put it down there. What else? Someone's going to comment about somebody else's weight. Okay, people commenting about other people's weight. What else? Someone's going to talk about their diet. They're going to say how much they lost and what the newest diet, and then someone else is going to chime in. Great, let's put that in there, diet talk. So one bingo card is everything that is going to happen. All the things that could possibly be triggering in terms of diets and weight and self-consciousness and body judgment. Let's put it out there because we know it's going to happen. We've been to these parties before. We know who these people are. Okay. Then the next bingo card is, so how are you going to feel? What's going to happen? Oh, I'll probably end up like tugging at my shirt and feeling a little self-conscious. Okay, let's put that. Shirt tug, self-consciousness. What else? I'll probably have a whole fight with myself about hors d'oeuvres. Should I not? Should I? How many have I had? And then I'll have a whole conversation about myself about how many drinks am I allowed to have? Should I? I'm bad. I'm good. Right. So let's put down your behavior. So what that does, there's other things obviously to do in this whole process, but what this bingo process does is lets us walk into an event with awareness. And I literally have had clients like text me and go, I'm in the bathroom, literally bingo. My entire card is full of everything people have said. And then I've texted back, like, so how does that feel? And they're like, it made me laugh. I didn't take it so seriously. It gave me a little space because I didn't take it on like this was the truth. It was like, oh, yeah, that's who they are. And look, they showed up exactly as I thought they would. And you know what? This isn't about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
And same when they're like, look, oh my gosh, I just filled out an entire bingo card of my own stuff that came up. And I'm like, so how did that feel? It feels like such a relief. Like it's not a mystery. I don't feel blindsided and I don't feel like punched in the gut every time I am giving myself a hard time. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what I do. That's the part of me that gets insecure. There's just a lot more compassion.
Yeah.
So there's work that we want to do in advance to bring more awareness into these kinds of situations.
That is wonderful because the awareness, like even to your point, the about the self side, now that gives you 20 more sessions to talk about and work on, and then show up to the next event. And did
Yes.
even just one little piece change? Because that's
Yeah.
progress, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely. And another piece is, are you walking out of the house with yourself? Or have you already abandoned yourself when you were getting dressed, going, see, I don't measure up?
Mhm.
First, we want to create a relationship with self so that you're walking in as an ally with yourself, holding your hand, connected, saying, you know what? I know there will be things that move you off your sweet spot of feeling good about yourself, but I'm here.
Mhm. And we're back to expectations again, that you
Mm-hmm.
also just help somebody reset their expectations. And you're giving them a visual, which I'm loving. I talk about this a lot with my clients because when you're trying to pull people off of scale mentality and that's like the big success factor, The other
Mm-hmm.
successes are slightly harder to measure, right? Like you really do have to sit and have a conversation about, look, you've changed. That's different than what you did 3 months ago. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't automatically pop up in that individual's mind right away. So you give them something very tangible to look at to go, that changed. Very cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's
Hmm.
interesting what you're saying, Lindsay, about this whole idea of how when we change, we don't actually necessarily acknowledge it. And I do think that that's part of our job as coaches is to go, do you see that? Do you see what just happened there? And they're like, oh, literally this morning I had a session and somebody who I'm working with joined a gym. It's a big deal for her. She lives in a large body. Gyms are not friendly to people who live in large bodies. It's been a big deal for her to claim some kind of movement for herself. And so she went and she said, and I joined and I went in. I was like, you what? She said, I joined and I went in and I got on a bike for 10 minutes. I said, wow. And she's like, what? I was like, you could have joined and walked away. You could have not joined, but you joined and went in. And she was like, yeah, I did. I did. I took an action. And I was like, right, you took an action. And how does that feel? And we have to, comes from Rick Hansen, who's a neuropsychologist, and he talks about how our brain is like Velcro to the bad and Teflon to the good, right? If something bad's happening, right? If she had gone and somebody was mean to her, she would remember that and she'd be like, that's it. I'm never going back. But something good happened and she, whoop, Teflon, went right by it. And so part of our work with ourselves and as coaches with our clients is to actually slow down the action of good. So one of the things Rick Hansen talks about is that we need actually 30 seconds to feel like, oh, that was good. And what did good feel like? Oh, that's in my body now is something really good. Oh yeah, I can feel good. Oh yeah, good is in my repertoire now.
It's a perfect example. Thank you. That is so beautifully done. I think it goes back to sometimes we don't give ourselves a chance to win. So your
Yes.
woman could have done all the good, maybe had a little bit of a negative experience, or didn't do 30 minutes on the bike. She only did 10 minutes on the bike. And now all of a sudden she's still beating herself up for not doing what she thought she should be doing, or she's beating herself up for not going to the gym. It's a lose-lose. And so again, a coach is like a beautiful space to just nail down this is linked. Like these positives are getting linked. You liked it. You had fun. Like
Right.
smile, walk away. Yes.
Right. How did it feel? And then what was
Yeah.
interesting, it kept going because she said, I went back in 2 days. And I said, and she said, I I got on the bike. She said, but then my foot started to hurt. And so I got off earlier than I wanted to get off. So I'm a bit disappointed. And I was like, so you listened to your body? And she was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I did. But then I got off the bike and I was like, so you listened to your body and you did what your body needed, which was to stop.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, I was like, and that's self care, right? It's the whole thing around, but like you said, expectation. She was like, and now I'm supposed to get on and I'm supposed to be on for 30 minutes, but really, my body is saying something's not, there's some alignment that's not right here. And we talked about it. I said, well, how do you think you could figure out alignment? And is there a trainer there that you could talk to about adjusting the bike and about, foot placement and all that? And she was like, yeah, I made an appointment. I was like, well, and there it is.
There's another win. Yes.
Yeah.
Self-advocate there. And this is the difference between her getting off and not being further injured, right? Because
Yes.
how many times do we finally get the momentum, the positive energy going in one
Yes.
direction, and then we're hurt? And it's
Yeah.
like you missed something. You missed your body was talking to you. Is it you who always says that your body is whispering? Like we need to listen
Mm-hmm.
while it's whispering, not when it's
Not
shouting.
while it's
I
yelling.
do
Yeah.
listen to you. I feel
Yeah.
like I have little Nina things in my head that come out because I love it.
Yeah. Our
Mhm.
body will start yelling and yelling and yelling if we don't hear the whispers. right? You hear it at Thanksgiving a lot. People are like eating and eating and eating, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I feel sick. Well, that's your body yelling. But a
Yes.
while ago, there it was whispering. But it's tricky to hear whispering when everybody's talking, literally talking at the same time, and there's five pies on the table, and there was three main courses before that. It's hard sometimes. Thanksgiving is a great example of why it's sometimes very hard for us to hear the whispers. And it's a
Mhm.
practice. It's a
Practice. Hmm.
practice of body listening. It's like literally, I teach a course called Body Listening Lab because it is a practice. I was not taught to listen to my body. I was taught to override my body. You feel pain, keep going. You're cold, hungry, tired, keep rolling. Like I grew up in Montreal, so I was a skier. And so literally you're shivering at the top of the mountain. And come on, it's okay. It doesn't matter that you're shivering, you're hungry, and you're exhausted. Go. That's what I was literally trained into. Ignore all body sensations and ski. And it was
Yeah.
only later when people started getting more aware of accidents happening at the end of the day that people would say, you know what, if you're really tired, this is your last run.
Mhm.
Stop. Because this is when accidents happen. And that's the truth. When we stop listening, our body starts yelling.
So good. I literally have 20 things that I'm not going to get around to, which makes me feel like our listeners are feeling the same way. And it's the most important to introduce them to the fact that you now have a podcast, and
I
I love it. Her
do.
story on a plate, kind of like history on a plate, her story on
It's
a
her
plate.
story on a plate.
Oh,
Yes. So Jenny Kramer and I joined forces to create her story on a plate. And really, what we're talking about is women's relationships with their bodies. And it's a combination of Jenny and I chatting about different things because she has a big clinical practice as well. And also us inviting different people in to talk about their story of around food and their story around body because we all have a food story. We all have a body story. And that's what we're all navigating. And there isn't a right story. And the other thing that I want to say is getting me onto a different tangent is that we can't really just rewrite our story. And that's what, like, I think about like all the books that I read when I was heavily into dieting. It was like, do this thing and everything will change. Do the Sears diet, the zone diet, the grapefruit diet, that like do whatever the thing is. And now you will have a new relationship with your body. And that's not true. We have a story that deserves to be honored. We've either, maybe been chronic dieters, or we were fat shamed in our life, or we were, put on a pedestal because we had the perfect body. And now that our body doesn't measure up to what it looked like when we were 21, it's really hard for us, right? Whatever it is, that is our story, and our story deserves to be honored.
yes. And I think as somebody hears somebody else's story, they might go, oh, I didn't realize that actually pertains to my story.
Yeah.
That whole, I'm not alone. And especially for the person who has felt very alone in their story, to hear somebody else say the same words that would have come out of their mouths is jaw dropping, right? It's unbelievable to go, oh, somebody experienced that. And it
Yeah.
wasn't just me. Yeah.
And Lindsay, I'm sure you experience this in your membership, and I also experience it in my groups, is that
Mm,
when other people hear people's body stories and the places where they feel shame or places they're working on in their relationship with their body, it is that light bulb moment of, oh, right, I am not alone. And I don't have to carry this as my secret shame. Other people are dealing with it, and it lets them be spacious. Like, one of the things that I talk about doing group work is it lets us drop the shame. And I don't mean drop like, and now I'm no longer have shame, but it lets us kind of put it down enough to look at it. instead of wearing our shame, wrapping it around us, making ourselves feel like we're wrong and bad all the time. It's, oh, look, there's the shame I have about my binge eating. There's the shame I have around my all afternoon nibbles. There's the shame I have around the weight that I have that I wish I didn't. Instead of, oh, I am bad and wrong because I am the size I am. I am bad and wrong because I ate last night late. And I really want to make the distinction of those two things, which is when we carry our shame like it is who we are, that we are wrong, versus, oh, here's a part of me that feels shame. And we can work with it versus own it and make it ours and feel bad about ourselves most of the time.
100% agree. And one of my favorite things when a client or a member does this within the group is be vulnerable and drop their shame in the group in this vulnerable way. And this is why I love your podcast, because it's like a whole platform, a whole space where somebody can step into and be the fly on the wall to get that vulnerability from others. And it's guided through professionals that are going to ask the questions that'll really help keep it more concise. I think some people's frustrations with group work is it can kind of go all over the place. So to be able to show up
Mhm.
to a podcast and have it guided very well and still get the
Yeah,
vulnerability and the story in a time frame
yeah.
sounds amazing. I was going to drop a couple of your titles too, because I think this will bring some of our listeners on board. But what are you grieving? Compare and despair, Oprah, weight loss drugs, and food noise, thriving despite our fat phobic world. Like all the topics to me, I was like, I'd hit play on every single one of those. I think they all sound
Mhm.
super intriguing.
It's been
So
fun. It's been really fun.
I'm
Yeah, and it's
excited.
fun
Yeah.
just to talking to you about this. It's fun to come out of our clinical spaces and explore the work in a different forum.
Yes, always. Ah, yes. So we keep talking about the podcast, but what are all of your favorite places to send individuals if they want to connect?
Yeah, so one of my favorite sort of first go-to places is to check out the Practicing Body Peace Journal. And it's on my website, ninamanolson.com, or Body Peace with Nina, all one word. It's just a little easier to spell than ninamanolson.com. And the Practicing Body Peace Journal is 20 questions that I would ask you if you were sitting with me. It's 20 questions that are about your relationship with your body. And we need to start looking at where we are with that relationship. And then, as a companion to those questions, are 5 of my body peace poems. So I write body peace poems. I write about women's relationship with their bodies because, just like we were talking about in groups, when we hear somebody else's words, it gives us words, it gives us vocabulary, it gives us emotional texture to talk about our own experience. So I have 5 of my body peace poems in there so that you can be inspired by them and it would spark what's going on in my relationship. Do I feel that way? Do I not feel that way? How's it gone so far? It's a chance for you to look at your body story.
I love it. I love it. And I think individuals do not take advantage enough of these opportunities to go on and just grab a free resource
Free
like
stuff.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it can spark this whole next level of your journey. So that's my actionable step that I would like everybody to take today is go grab that free journal. And you've been on with us before, so you know I'm going to ask this, but if you could wrap your arms around our listeners, and if
Okay.
you can hope and pray that they heard one thing out of you today, if they heard nothing else, what would that be?
Is that you have a relationship with your body. It's an important relationship, and you can impact that relationship positively. You can have a supportive, caring, nourishing, peaceful, respectful relationship with your body. It is possible.
Thank you, Nina. Ah, it was such a beautiful moment to have you today, and I
Thank
just
you.
cherish your time and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.